There's a weird split happening in boating right now. On the surface, it looks like a golden age. Marinas full, boat shows packed, glossy ads promising easy financing, club memberships, charter deals, affordable liveaboard dreams. Social feeds are wall-to-wall with sunsets from the cockpit and "we just bought our dream boat" posts. But if you talk to surveyors, marina managers, riggers, insurance underwriters, people who see the unfiltered version of this world, you hear something very different. You hear about yards turning away work because they can't hire techs. You hear about perfectly decent boats that can't get insurance at any price. You hear about marinas quietly phasing out liveaboards and small sailboats to make room for bigger, more profitable powerboats. You hear about builders chasing Instagram features while cutting corners in places owners never see, until something fails. That's what this video is about. Not the dream, not the brochures, the hidden cracks in the boating industry that nobody really wants to talk about because they're bad for marketing, bad for sales, and uncomfortable for anyone who's just written a big check for a hull. By the end of this video, you'll know where those cracks actually are. In the demographics, in the marinas, in the service industry, in insurance, in boat building itself. More importantly, you'll know how to spot them before they become your problem. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you a simple crack detector checklist. 7 questions you can ask any broker, marina or yard before you sign anything. It's designed to save you from buying into someone else's slow-motion disaster. If straight, no-hype analysis helps you make smarter moves on the water, hit subscribe now so you don't miss the follow-ups on specific boat types, budgets, and how to actually make this lifestyle sustainable. Let's start with the biggest crack of all, the one underneath everything else. The first hidden crack is people, or more accurately, the lack of them. For decades, boating in most Western countries has been dominated by one generation, the post-war baby boom. They bought sailboats in the 70s and 80s, traded up in the 90s, and fueled an entire ecosystem of builders, training programs, racing clubs, and marina expansions. That generation is now in its 60s, 70s, even 80s. The average long-term owner over 25 feet is well over 30 years old. The average long-term owner is often near or past retirement age. And one thing is guaranteed: nobody owns a boat forever. We talk a lot about bloomers dumping boats, but the reality is quieter than that. It's illness,
It's knees that can't climb the companionway anymore. It's spouses who don't feel steady on a heeling deck. It's kids who moved away and don't want to inherit a long to-do list with docklines attached. Meanwhile, the pipeline behind them is thin. Younger generations are squeezed. Housing eats more income. Student loans, uncertain careers, and fewer pensions make 30-year boat plans feel unrealistic. Even if the down payment is doable, the idea of committing to thousands a year in slip fees, maintenance, and insurance competes with childcare, rent, and just living. Culturally, the dream has shifted too. Many younger people want flexible experiences, not fixed assets. Boat clubs, peer-to-peer rentals, crewing on other people's boats, these scratch the itch without requiring ownership of a depreciating, maintenance-hungry machine. So you have an aging fleet, aging owners, and a smaller group of younger buyers coming in behind. That demographic crack matters because it feeds almost every other problem on this list. It reduces the number of people willing to take over older boats. It shrinks club memberships and volunteer pools. It makes it harder to justify training programs, youth sailing fleets, and the infrastructure that used to bring new people into the lifestyle. A second closely related crack is where boats actually live, marinas and waterfronts. On paper, we have plenty of coastline. In practice, working waterfront is disappearing. Take any big metro harbor and look at old photos. The piers that used to be shipyards, fuel docks, modest marinas, and boatyards are increasingly glass condos, restaurants, and event spaces. Land values go up, taxes go up, and the easiest way for a marina owner to cash out is to sell to a developer who doesn't care about haul-outs. The marinas that remain are under pressure. Environmental rules tighten, storms hit harder, infrastructure, docks, pilings, breakwaters ages out. Replacing all that is wildly expensive. Many marinas pass the cost directly into slip fees. Others quietly change who they serve. You see it in the mix of boats. 10 small, low-margin, 30-foot sailboats in 10 slips versus 5 big express cruisers with high power charges and premium services. Guess which group looks better on a spreadsheet? Guess which one tends to get squeezed out when the marina reconfigures? Liveaboards, too, are an easy target. From a business standpoint, liveaboards use bathrooms, parking, garbage, security. From a political standpoint, they're easy to blame for any friction with neighbors or regulators. The easiest way to clean up a marina image before a sale or renovation is to quietly stop renewing liveaboard permits.
The result is a squeeze in both directions: fewer marinas, more expensive slips, and more restrictions on how you can use your boat when you finally get one. For the individual boater, this hidden crack shows up when you buy a boat first and try to find a slip afterward. Suddenly you discover the waiting list is 3 years, live aboards aren't allowed, or your modest older boat is welcome only in the least protected, least maintained part of the facility. That brings us to the third crack: service. If you've tried to get real work done on your boat in the last couple of years, you already know this one. The people who build, fix, and upgrade boats, diesel mechanics, riggers, sailmakers, fiberglass techs, marine electricians, are aging out just like boat owners. For years, these trades were kept alive by passion and apprenticeship, not big salaries and formal pipelines. A lot of the best workers learned from someone who learned from someone, and eventually went out on their own. Now, those experts are retiring. Younger people who might have filled in are pulled toward tech, construction, automotive, anything that pays more reliably and doesn't involve lying in bilge water in February. The result is a shortage of skilled labor, especially in high-cost coastal regions where the techs themselves can't afford to live near the water. Yards respond in predictable ways. They raise hourly rates, they prioritize big jobs on big, profitable boats, they book out months in advance. Some stop taking outside work entirely and focus on contracts with local dealers. For owners, that means even if you have the money, you may not be able to get work done on any reasonable schedule. A rig inspection takes weeks to schedule. A minor engine issue strands you for half the season. Want to do a full refit? You might have to haul in a yard hundreds of miles away or do a long-distance project with a yard that doesn't truly know you. At the same time, many marinas and yards restrict what you can do yourself. Environmental rules, liability concerns, and plain old business logic lead them to ban owner bottom painting, welding, major electrical work. In some places, you're not allowed to sand, grind, or even change your own oil unless you're on an approved contractor list. So the DIY escape hatch, I'll save money by doing it myself, is getting narrower just as professional help gets more expensive and less available. Now, let's talk about the crack that most non-boaters don't see at all: insurance. Marine insurance used to be boring. You called a broker, got a quote, maybe did a quick survey, and moved on. For most owners, premiums were a rounding error compared to slip fees and maintenance. Those days are over, especially for older boats and hurricane-exposed regions.
A combination of big loss events, climate volatility, and overall financial caution has hardened the marine insurance market. Underwriters are pulling back from older hulls, especially those over 20 or 30 years old that haven't had documented refits. In some areas, carriers have simply stopped writing new policies for certain categories of boat. Even where insurance is available, the terms have tightened. Higher deductibles, especially named storm deductibles in hurricane zones. Stricter requirements for haulouts, working storm plans, and hurricane hulls. Mandatory rig surveys. Roof-high lists of exclusions. Many new buyers don't discover this until late in the process. They find a boat, fall in love, negotiate the price, schedule the survey, and then get a phone call from an insurer saying, "Actually, we can't cover that for you," or "We'll insure you, but only liability, no hull and no named storm coverage." That one crack alone can kill a deal, because marinas usually require liability coverage, and banks always require full coverage to issue a loan. Without insurance, your boat might be technically cheap, but you can't legally keep it where you want or finance it the way you planned. From the industry side, insurers have a point. An aging fleet in riskier weather with more large losses is exactly the sort of thing that breaks a risk model. The problem is that nobody built a plan B. There's no public backstop for marine risk on the recreational side, no systematic effort to retire uninsurable boats responsibly, no coordinated push to upgrade critical systems. So everything gets handled on a case-by-case basis through friction and surprises. The next crack is more controversial because people love new boats. The economics of boat building. When you walk around a modern boat show, it looks like the industry is thriving. Gleaming hulls, huge cockpits, twin helms, fold-down terraces, electric thrusters, Wi-Fi. But under the polish, the business model is increasingly stretched. Boats are expensive to build. Materials, labor, compliance, testing, it all adds up. At the same time, the pool of buyers willing to spend serious money is smaller than it looks, and they're demanding more comfort and tech per foot than ever. That combination pushes builders toward a certain kind of compromise. On the design side, there's pressure to maximize space. Wide sterns, high topsides, enormous coach roofs, multi-cabin layouts. These look great in a brochure and at a dock. They also challenge fundamental things like reserve stability, motion at sea, and structural loading. On the construction side, there's pressure to control costs.
That can mean more cord structures where solid laminate used to be, more reliance on adhesives and less on hand-laminated tabbing, more complex systems integrated under floors and behind liners where owners can't easily access them. It doesn't mean modern boats are all bad. Many are excellent, but the risk profile has changed. A well-built, simple, older boat might be cosmetically tired, but structurally bulletproof. A brand new boat might be incredibly comfortable and well-engineered, but any flaw in the production process, any corner cut on a hidden bulkhead bond, any design assumption about loads being slightly off, can lead to early failures in places owners never see coming. Add to that the trend toward more electronics and automation, digital switching, integrated navigation suites, app-controlled everything. This is fantastic when it works. It's a nightmare when it doesn't, especially 3 owners down the line when the original manufacturer has merged or gone under and the software support is gone. Then there's the dealer angle. Many builders rely on floor plan financing, dealers borrowing against inventory with interest costs rising as boats sit unsold. If the market slows, dealers get squeezed hard. There have been cases where customers who've paid deposits or even paid in full find themselves stuck between a builder and a bankrupt dealer, with warranty, service, or even title in dispute. That's a crack most buyers never think about, the financial stability of the dealer and builder behind their shiny new hull. Another hidden crack lies in regulation and environmental policy. Most boaters would agree that cleaner water, healthier harbors, and fewer spills are good things, but the way rules get rolled out can unintentionally create pressure points. Examples: bans on certain anti-fouling paints before affordable alternatives are widely available, strict gray water and black water rules without providing enough pump-out infrastructure, suddenly tightened discharge standards that require costly holding tank retrofits on older boats, emissions rules that make certain older engines effectively illegal to replace or repair with like-for-like parts. Each individual regulation often makes sense. In aggregate, they add cost and complexity to owning and operating a boat, especially an older one. Commercial operators can sometimes amortize that cost or pass it on. The average sailor who is already just barely making the budget work feels it as another nudge toward giving up. Harbor management decisions also matter. Restrictions on anchoring, limits on long-term mooring fields, increased enforcement around derelict vessels, all understandable from a municipality's point of view, can shrink the low-cost end of the boating spectrum to almost nothing.
If the only options are expensive marina slip or nothing, a lot of entry-level and liveaboard pathways disappear. That hollowing out at the bottom of the pyramid eventually starves the top. Fewer people graduate from day sailor to small cruiser to serious voyager if the first rung of the ladder is missing. Now, let's talk about something even more uncomfortable: safety culture. Modern boats are bigger, faster, and more complex than the boats many skippers grew up on,
but the training system hasn't really kept up. You can write a check for a 40-foot performance cruiser with twin wheels, bow thruster, in-mast furling, autopilot, radar, plotter, and a couple thousand square feet of sail with less mandatory training than it takes to rent a small car. Dealers will happily offer a quick on-the-water familiarization, but real seamanship, heavy weather practice, night navigation, emergency drills is something owners have to seek out on their own. Powerboating has a parallel problem. Huge outboard rigs and fast center consoles are delivering horsepower and speeds that would have been reserved for offshore race boats a generation ago. But many operators have never spent time in rough water or learned how quickly things go wrong at 50 knots. Add charter platforms and fractional clubs, great ways to access boats, but not always designed around deep education, and you get a subtle but real shift. More people with access to big, capable boats for short bursts of time, but without consistent mentorship or long-term responsibility for upkeep. That shows up in accident reports, groundings, collisions, close calls in inlets, crews unprepared for sudden squalls. It also shows up in how boats are treated. Maintenance deferred because it's not my boat, minor damage ignored because there's a corporate insurance policy behind it. None of this means clubs and charters are bad. They're a critical part of the future of boating. But they do introduce another crack, the separation of user from owner, which can dilute both accountability and knowledge. All of these cracks combine into a final, overarching one, fragility. Individually, each stress, aging owners, disappearing marinas, crew shortages, tight insurance, build quality questions, regulatory pressure, shallow training, looks manageable. Together, they make the recreational boating world less resilient. A mild recession plus a couple of bad hurricane seasons plus a big builder or insurer failure, and suddenly pieces start to fall in ways that would have been unthinkable 30 years ago. So what do you do with this knowledge? Because the goal here is not to say, don't buy boats, don't go sailing, everything is doomed.
The goal is to understand where the weak spots are, so you can avoid stepping directly on them. Let's bring it down from the 10,000-foot level to decisions you might actually make. Start with location. Before you buy a boat, investigate your local marina and yard ecosystem, like you'd research neighborhoods before buying a house. Are there multiple marinas competing or one monopoly operator? Are there independent yards that still take outside work? Are the docks and pilings clearly maintained or obviously tired? What's the liveaboard policy? How long is the waiting list? Are there public moorings or anchorages, or is everything pay to play? Spend an afternoon walking docks and talking to longtime slipholders. Ask what's changed in the last 10 years. Rising fees, new rules, ownership changes? Their answers will tell you whether you're stepping into a stable community or onto a crack that's already widening. Next, plan for service. Before you fall in love with a particular boat, find out who will work on it. Make calls. If I bought a 35-foot sailboat in this harbor, how far out are you booking diesel service, rig inspections, electrical work? Ask what they charge. Ask whether they still allow owner-assist projects or if everything has to be done by staff. If the answers are, we're 6 months out, we only work on boats bought from dealer X, and no, owners can't touch anything, that's a flashing red light. You may still decide to buy, but you'll go in knowing that your plan A probably needs a plan B, whether that's developing serious DIY skills or being prepared to travel for big jobs. On insurance, flip the process. Instead of find boat, then insure, start with find insurer, then boat. Call a marine insurance broker and describe honestly the type, age, and price range of boat you're considering, plus where you plan to keep it and how you'll use it. Ask them what models, age ranges, and conditions are easiest to insure and which are nightmares. You'll quickly learn that some classes of boat, maybe certain older multi-hulls or heavy classic wood or unrefitted 80s production cruisers, are climbing up the risk ladder. Others, especially simple, well-documented fiberglass boats with recent rigs and engines, are still relatively straightforward. That information should shape your shopping list. On the builder-dealer side, do a background check. Look at how long the builder has been in business under its current ownership.
Research whether they've gone through bankruptcies, name changes, or major restructuring. Google warranty complaints. Check if they have a real functioning parts network or if owners are already complaining about year-long waits for basic bits. Do the same with the dealer. Have they been around a while?
Do they run a service department with real techs, or are they essentially a sales office that outsources everything? Ask how they handled past issues, osmosis campaigns, rigging recalls, engine problems. Past behavior is the best indicator of how they'll treat you when something breaks. On safety and training, invest ahead of the curve. Don't wait for a scare to sign up for a coastal navigation course, a radar class, or a heavy weather seminar. Don't wait until you're in a real Mayday to read your VHF manual. The more competent you are, the less dependent you are on an industry that is stretched thin. Competence also saves you money. The better you can maintain and inspect your own gear, the less you need to hire out basic troubleshooting. Finally, be honest about which part of the pyramid you actually want to live in. If you are drawn to rugged simplicity, if you enjoy maintenance and don't care what your boat looks like on Instagram, an older, smaller, well-proven design in a modest harbor may give you a fantastic life afloat with manageable exposure to these cracks. If you want a big, modern, feature-rich boat in a glossy, marquee marina, understand that you're swimming at the deep end of all these trends. Slip scarcity, service bottlenecks, insurance scrutiny, tech complexity. That can be fine if you budget for it and walk in with open eyes. Okay, let's close with that crack detector checklist I promised. A set of 7 questions you can use as a quick X-ray on any boating situation you're considering. Question 1. What's changed here in the last 5 years? Ask this at marinas, clubs, and yards. If the answer is fees doubled, rules tightened, half the small boats left, you're looking at an area where the economic crack is already visible. Question 2. How long have your current techs been with you, and are you hiring? If every yard you talk to says, "We can't keep mechanics," or "We're desperate for riggers," assume long waits and rising prices are baked in. Question 3. What will it take to insure a boat like this for a new owner? Ask the insurer before you ask the broker. If underwriters start talking about rig age, survey requirements, storm plans, or flat refusals for certain models, listen carefully. Question 4. What's your plan if your main marina closes or changes hands? If your entire boating plan depends on a single privately owned facility staying exactly the same for 10 years, that's a crack. Look for backup options. Question 5. How easy is it to get parts and warranty support for this brand? Ask existing owners. Dig through forums. If people are swapping stories about 6-month waits for a replacement hatch or a software update, understand that you're signing up for that.
Question 6. What training or mentoring comes with this? Whether you're joining a club, buying from a dealer, or stepping into a community, ask what's built in beyond a quick handover. A culture that values education is a lot more resilient than one that just hands you keys. Question 7. If I had to sell this boat fast, who would buy it? Imagine your own exit. Would this boat appeal to younger buyers or only to a shrinking demographic? Is it insurable, simple enough to maintain, flexible in where it can be moored? If you can't picture a plausible next owner, you're staring at the demographic crack in microcosm. None of these questions are magic. They won't fix the structural issues in the industry, but they will keep you from stepping blindly onto the worst fault lines. The hidden cracks in boating are real. They're also survivable. If you see them early, adapt your plans and align your dream with reality instead of the brochure. If this breakdown helped you understand what's happening behind the glossy ads and boat show lights, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next videos in this series where we'll dive into specific boat types, real-world budgets, and concrete strategies for making the numbers and the lifestyle work long-term. Fair winds, and may all the cracks you encounter be in someone else's spreadsheet, not in your hull or your plans.